Okay, the next part we're going to create is the upper die pressure ring. There's a couple of different ways that we can do this, and I'm going to show you one way. You could do a revolve as part of this. There's all sorts of different things, but I'm just going to start with something simple by looking at the big basic shape, which is a giant circle that is extruded. So we're going to use that and create that. Now make sure you're getting the right dimensions as you put this in, reading them from the diagram. And make sure that everything is being extruded to the right size as is appropriate for all of this. There we go. Okay, so we've got the large overall shape of that, and then there's a slight depression in here that is cut out of the middle that we're going to create next, and make sure we cut it to the right dimension as well as the right size. So we're going to create a sketch on here, use that same center point for our center circle. Make sure that we have the right dimension on that before we extrude it. Not quite, a little bit off, so we're going to adjust it. Now this is just an extrusion cut, so we're going to cut in, and it's just a small amount that's being cut out there to get that shape. So that's how we start this one. Then we're going to look at the next part, which has got some holes and some pegs on here. A couple of different things that we can look at. I think we'll start with our holes that we have in here. And we're going to have to choose the front and the back. Now the front has this cutout, or this bottom as it says, and top here. So the bottom has got this small cutout and the top does not. It's got a peg coming out of it and a couple of holes, one of which is special, has that little symbol, and that indicates it's a countersink. So that means we're going to have to use our hole command. And it's got one other hole right through the middle that's in the center of that. So we'll use hole a couple of times here to create those. So I'm going to move it to the back so I can see that, or what they are calling the top. Use the hole command here under thread. It's just a regular through hole. Since it's on a round thing, I'm going to use concentric. So selecting that, and then selecting the circle around it to center it, and make sure that that's in the right place. So that's going through all. Check your dimensions if you're unsure about what's going on. Now the next one, this is going to be actually more something we'll probably need to create a sketch for, because we don't really have the right measurements for the hole here, so we're going to need to create a sketch first so we can place that hole properly. So we want to put a point, and we want it to be directly above from what we saw before. We just need to make sure that it is that, so use some constraints on it. The vertical constraint to get it in the right layout. And then the distance, and that distance is given to us here. So we'll put that distance away before we come back and put that hole in. So we're going to add a dimension there from the center point up to our point. Now that we have that point placed, we can use our hole command. Now we're going to do a countersink, make sure it's the right type, and then we can get our measurements in here for that. Countersink is given by a large outer diameter for the top of the hole, and then a regular diameter for the whole hole, and a little bit of angle of what those sides are going to look like. So Let's put that in. Have a top diameter, a measurement of degrees, and a final diameter for the whole hole. And that looks pretty good there. So the next part that we're looking to do is this. Let's do this peg here at the bottom. And that's just a post that's coming out with a round tip on the end. So we're given the measurement of that post and where that is, so we can put this into place. We'll just do another sketch on the back here and line up our circle that will make that post coming out. Make sure it's the right size and it is the right distance. From our hole, and then we'll use a vertical constraint to make sure that it stays lined up with the hole above it. It seems like that's important to put these together. Next bit is just to extrude that out, and we need to make sure we get the right dimension again on this, so always tracking these dimensions. It's not listed over here. We do find it somewhere else on our sketch, so we can do that. So let's put that in, and then we'll round off the top. Alright, so this distance taken out. I think I got the wrong distance on there, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to check. Doesn't look the right size. And I'm right, I screwed up that distance. So I'm going to go to the extrusion, right click it to edit feature, we've done with many other things, and adjust our measurement. Now to round off the end of this, what we need to do is create another very small revolve. So on here, I'm going to put a sketch right on the end of this hole, and it's kind of tough to see from that angle, so I'm going to turn it to the edge. That'll help. I just need a line that's going across this to create a little bit of a setup for a semicircle, because that's what I want to turn as a revolve. Doesn't matter that I get it an exact measurement, because it's right there, it's lined up vertically. It's okay as long as it goes through the center there. Then as we do the revolve, we're just going to choose 1/2, doesn't matter which half, and choose our axis to go around it, and click OK. That's going to create a rounded peg there. So we have that nice round peg. Alright, so we're going to do some parts on the back here. So we're going to set up a sketch on that outer ring, and we're going to do another one of these same type of circles with the appropriate dimensions for everything. And that's for these round pegs that are on the bottom here on the opposite side, and how far they stick out and the rounded nature of them. They've got a slightly different diameter there, so I'm going to need to go back and adjust that, and there's the 3 of those. So we make sure that we have the right amount here, and it's not giving me an exact amount, so I'm going to make the computer do a little bit of math for this one. So first I'm going to go back and adjust my measurement, make sure it's right, and then I'm going to set it at the correct distance from the center. Find that measurement on here and use that. Now as we finish sketch and extrude that, this one's got sort of a weird dimension to it. We didn't give it an exact measurement on there, but we can use a little bit of math, make the calculator do it, or the computer do it. Put in the dimensions that were given here into a math equation. We know it's going to stick out this far, and the total distance is that amount minus this amount. So we'll add that, put that in there, and use that to get the dimension that we need for that. That should extrude it to the right size. Now we'll do the same thing to get the rounded tip on the end. Let's just create a sketch right on the end of that. We're going to put a line across it through the middle. Finish sketch, we'll create a revolve to pop that around. Now that we've got that one set up, we know that there are 3 of them, so I think circular pattern would be a good way to go about this. And choose the features, which is that little extrusion and that little revolve from our browser. And then we choose a rotation axis, and we set the number of them on there. So that should get us those pegs, the holes. Looks like we're doing pretty good on this. Let's see if there's anything else that we're missing on this setup. So we've got the 1 peg on the bottom, the 3 pegs around in the back, or the 1 peg on the top, 3 on the bottom, 2 holes. Everything's looking pretty good. So we can save this. And this is called the upper die pressure ring. So make sure we save that into your button maker folder on your student drive.